Hello, everyone. This is Mnar Adley. I am the founder and director of MintPress News. I am here in Minneapolis in studio with a very special guest. We're doing part 2 of our interview with the very brave Willy Massay. He is an ICU trauma emergency room nurse that has just returned from a medical mission in Gaza. And today we're doing part 2 of our interview. And we're going to continue the conversation about some of the things that he saw when he was in Gaza. Horrific things that he saw. And I invite everybody to view part 1 of that interview on our YouTube channel. And of course, we do have some of those shorter clips shared on social media. Willy, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mnar.
Thank you for coming back to do part 2 of this conversation, to continue sharing with the world some of the really unbelievable things that you saw in Gaza. You recently returned from a medical mission in Gaza where, you spent several months working as an ICU trauma nurse in several emergency rooms in the heart of Israel's genocide in Gaza. You worked at the Nasser Hospital in the emergency room there in the south, Al-Aqsa Hospital, and Deir al-Balah, which is in the middle area of Gaza. And you also worked in the Indonesian hospital in the north.
Correct.
And, I was really affected by part 1 of our interview. Some of the things that you left us with are stories of mothers coming to you with plastic bags with the body parts, the shredded body parts of their children. We want to talk about beheaded babies. You had mothers coming in with
Shredded babies.
shredded heads in plastic bags, looking for you to put their child together. You spoke to me a lot about women and young girls dying from UTIs because they didn't have menstrual pads during their periods. And so I invite everybody to watch part 1 of that interview. It's quite heartbreaking. But I know that you went to Gaza for a reason, to help these people. And now you're back to be a voice for the people of Gaza in a world right now where they feel maybe that the world has turned against them. And so we want to continue this conversation. And I would like us to start by you sharing more about some of the really unbelievable things that you saw as an ICU trauma nurse in Gaza.
Death everywhere. Unbelievable suffering and pain caused by none other than Israel's genocide in Gaza. No one shoots a child once or twice in the head or in the chest by accident. It's on purpose. Israel kills children in Gaza on purpose and by well-designed atrocities, because no one can shoot a child by accident multiple times in the head, in the chest, in the groin. No, it's by design. So those are the most horrific things that I've seen. Losing a child because somebody hates them, and that person is Israel, and that child is just because he or she is Palestinian. It's an atrocity that humanity should not forget, and we should be judged for it.
It's really unbelievable, just the amount of death and destruction that we've seen in Gaza. I mean, the images of children being amputated, being left without any family or parents left. The entire families killed, massacred from these bombs. And yet people still showed up to the emergency room. I mean, describe a day in the emergency room in Gaza. What are some of the most horrifying things that you've seen that keep you up at night today?
It is the screams of parents, relatives, cries of mothers, and the smell of gunpowder, blood, and burning flesh that will never ever leave my senses of smell, and the cries of mothers and fathers over their children, that plays in my head, in my heart every night. I can't sleep. You cannot get away from that. So this image of very chaotic, organized mess of death and destruction in an emergency room, that image plays over and over and over and over again in my head, with the cries and wailing of mothers. O mothers of Palestine, you're wailing for your children. I keep saying that to myself. You're wailing and crying for your babies. That will not leave me, ever. Ever. I can hear them, those mothers, every day. Those fathers, every day. I can see them. I can see them in my dreams. I can see and hear Israeli bombs in my sleep. And I'll be okay. Okay, I'll be fine. But I'm worried about our children in Gaza, the Palestinian children in Gaza, who I can come home into the safety of my own home, but they don't. But they hear it every single day, and they see it every single day, those mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and children in Gaza. That is heartbreaking. That is something that will pierce your heart into pieces, will kill your soul. Your heart will die for Gaza, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And it's unimaginable because we here in the West, we wake up, we have running water, we're safe, we don't have bombs being dropped on our homes. We look out the window, there's green grass, flowers, birds chirping. But you are in the heart of this war that is just quite unimaginable for the average person in most countries to be able to feel that they can relate to. But you were there in the heart of this. And I can imagine you've been struggling with this survivor's guilt because now you're here, safe, eating, running water, while the war kind of is replaying in your mind. Mm-hmm. This is what a lot of people that return from war suffer with, this survivor's guilt, PTSD, this underlying depression and rage that is basically programmed now into their nervous system. Mm-hmm. And yet Palestinian children, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers are living this every single day by the minute. Mm-hmm. It's their reality. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a survivor of war too. I lived under Israeli occupation and apartheid, and I suffered from that for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And it's why we do the work that we do at MintPress. Mm-hmm. But one of the stories that really stuck out to me that you shared with me in recent days is your time in the emergency rooms when, because of Israel having killed over, I think the number is over 1,400 healthcare workers now. Israel has targeted and killed over 1,400 healthcare workers in Gaza. And so the hospital rooms are quite overwhelmed, and they're not allowing more healthcare workers inside of Gaza on purpose. And so you are left to help people suffering from gunshot wounds and other
explosive
injuries, shredded body parts with very little supplies. Talk to me more about that.
Israel blocks medical supplies. We don't have gauze. We don't have anesthesia. We don't have antibiotics. We don't have, even when the physicians want to suture a child in an emergency room. There's multiple times we didn't have sutures, um, and no water, no electricity. Israel, before every strike, they will cut off electricity that's available. Then they're going to bomb you while it's in the dock. At that moment, your patients that are in the ventilators, oxygen will cut off. You literally, at the Indonesian hospital, I remember we were going there and bagging children, patients, to keep them alive, to give them breaths, because oxygen tanks are empty or electricity has been cut off.
What do you mean by bagging them?
Like, we have this instrument where you have to disconnect the patient from the ventilator, because that's what provides them with oxygen. But since there's no oxygen coming from the ventilator, you manually do it. You give them it's a little bag, and you connect it with the patient's tubes that goes straight to their lungs. So you give them the air. You keep them alive until lights come back on, until there's oxygen. Then you hook them back in and reconnect the ventilator. I remember that night we were at the Indonesian hospital because Israel had just bombed prior to us arriving at Indonesian. They had just bombed the oxygen building where all the hospital oxygen, central oxygen is coming from. But so patient had this tiny little containers of oxygen by their beds, and sometimes it runs out too. And so when it runs out, there's no oxygen. What do? You have a ventilated patient that needs oxygenation. We bag them. We just connect them and bag them. And this is by design. This is not because there is no oxygen. It's just few kilometers waiting at the border. Israel is denying even oxygen to keep alive the patients they just bombed, that we saved. You save, but they're going to tell you, okay, good for you, but I'm still going to kill them because I'm not going to allow oxygen. Let that sink in, Mnar. Let's just think about that. So everything that's happening in Gaza is well-designed massacre and genocide by Israel. And on top of killing these children, maiming them, completely making sure that Gaza is a wasteland, but they're still going to deny you the very basic of life-saving equipment, including oxygen, gas, medicine. Very basic.
And I can imagine, these hospital rooms are already understaffed. And so you have people bagging this oxygen to these patients, and there's other patients waiting to be helped and treated. What kind of situations did you find yourself in because of this understaffing and because of not having enough supplies, because Israel is blocking the medical supplies, where you had patients needing your attention, but you couldn't give them your attention? You had to, make really hard decisions to give other patients your attention. And perhaps, I don't know, maybe you saw patients dying because there just wasn't enough help to treat them.
I remember one night when there was no electricity. Israel had just cut off electricity. And so we were bagging these patients, right? And you can watch the you can see we bring this tiny little oxygen saturation pulse oximetry, we call them. We put them in patients' fingers. So you're watching their oxygen drop 99, 100 to 92, 70, 60. They're dropping because that means their oxygen they're not getting enough oxygen. And so the lower it gets, of course, they're going to die. So what we usually do is you see them get to a certain point of 70% oxygenation, you run and jump into and back that one, and you come back and back this one, and you come back and back this one. So usually there's not enough healthcare workers. And that is a challenge because they're either killed by Israel, displaced by Israel, and then you have these medical students and nursing students who are the most amazing healthcare workers who are volunteers. They come and help their people, but sometimes they don't have transport to get to the hospital. Walking to the hospital for miles. I was in Jabalia, right? That's where Indonesian hospital is around the area. Leaving Jabalia camp is a death sentence because there's always quadcopters. So these medical students and nursing students and nurses and doctors, the few that are available on a daily basis, they're risking their lives because they'll be killed. Walking to work, they could be killed any day. And I have colleagues that were shot walking to work. My brother, Dr. Mohammed Tahir, was shot in the legs going to work. This is after the Indonesian hospital was bombed. He was going to Kamal Adwan and help. Walking. Quadcopter shot him. And he got arrested by Israel. The soldiers took him. Finally, he got released during the last ceasefire. These are just nurses and doctors, simply, and medical students and nursing students. They're coming to come and help their people. But they're getting killed. They're getting shot. How can you explain that to anyone with a conscience in this world? But only Israel can get away with it. Only Israel can get away with it. Journalists, healthcare workers, and hospitals have always been a protected group, but not with Israel. You, as a journalist, Mnar, you're a target. Me, as a healthcare worker, I'm a target. Why is that? It's a very organized genocide, massacre of the people. If you don't have journalists, they don't allow international journalists to go in, right? And they're killing the Palestinian journalists, right? Who is going to tell the world? No one. They're killing nurses and doctors of Gaza. And those who are international healthcare workers are trying to come in. They're not allowed to come in. They only allow a few at a time. COGAT is very strategic in blocking international healthcare workers to go into Gaza. So what does that leave you with? Palestinian people in Gaza are left with no one. Nobody. They are left with no one in an open air gas chamber, getting murdered on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. While they're being killed, they're broadcasting their own genocide to the world. This is the first time I've seen people broadcasting their own murder.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that any of this is even allowed. I mean, there's, I think, an underlying rage that I think a lot of people feel inside of them, because it's not okay for any of this to happen, and yet we're watching our politicians, donning their perfectly ironed suits, talking about human rights and self-defense and democracy, while arming an apartheid state to commit these war crimes on literally live television. and to be broadcasted on social media for the whole world to see, almost like to rub it in our faces, like, haha, we can do this, and there's nothing you can do about it. Um, it's almost to make us lose hope, but because that's what Israel's really good at, is they want to crush every bit of hope that humanity has and people have in Gaza. But Willie, people like you give me hope because you risked your life to go to Gaza. A lot of healthcare workers know the risk of going to Gaza. They know Israel is targeting, systematically targeting and assassinating these healthcare workers. I mean, they're bombing aid convoys live. We're getting video footage of this. They're shooting these young children in the groin. They're hitting the UN schools that are there for safety. And yet you risked everything to leave Omaha, Nebraska, where you worked as an American Tanzanian ICU emergency room nurse, to go to Gaza. And so, considering the lack of supplies and the many very difficult decisions I can imagine that you had to make with treating patients, also with just being short staffed and the hospitals being overwhelmed, you were put in situations where Israel was actively bombing surrounding areas around the hospitals, and you were there in the emergency rooms. Tell me how people would come into the emergency rooms and some of the hard decisions you had to make.
Because there's usually very few ambulances working. Patients come with donkey carts sometimes. And when they come, usually it's very difficult to triage patients in Gaza. You have to make a split decision that which children or which patient will make it and who cannot make it. So when you're working on these children that are possibly going to make it through, you're able to save them. For me, the most difficult part is, while I am concentrating on this particular child, we're working on helping her or him. I'm also gazing to some extent to the child that is on the ground, on the floor, because they're going to bring them in, all of them. And the most difficult part is to watch. I remember this little girl. She's taking her final breaths and she's choking in her own blood. And no one is able to, and no one is available to even just suction the blood out of her mouth so that she can peacefully die. This is by design. Israel does that by design. I'll never forget her, watching her dying alone on the cement of the hospital floor, alone, and choking in her own blood.
That's horrific. The things that your eyes have seen, the things that your ears have heard, the screams, the cries, the smells of gunpowder mixed with blood that your nose has smelled, is unbelievable.
I want people to think about this. If this is your son or your daughter or your brother or your sister dying on the floor of a hospital alone, choking to death in her own blood. This is for the people in the West. I have nephews. I just saw them today. I could not imagine something happens to them like that. And anyone in America, I want you to think about this. Look at your children in the eye. Look at your nephews, nieces in the eye. Look at your brothers and sisters in the eye. And tell me, if they were in a hospital, dying alone on the ground, choking in their own blood because somebody hates them, your whole humanity will be shredded into pieces. Your whole soul will be dead. If somebody does that to my nephews, I'd rather die. I would take it for them. I would take it for them. I looked at those children in Gaza dying alone. I wish I would take their place. Because I'm old enough. I've seen the world. I've done enough. I've so much to read. But I wish it was me and they will take my place because they have so much left to do in their lives. And for any American, anyone in Europe and the world, if you can do anything for your nephews, your children, your nieces, and your brothers and sisters and your parents, then you can do it for people in Gaza. We shouldn't allow that. Why? Why would you allow that?
Well, we have Israeli politicians openly saying how they feel about Palestinian children. I mean, no, there's no innocent lives. That's what they keep saying on repeat. And they've described us Palestinians, all Palestinians, as human animals that need to be eradicated. And if that's not the talk of a genocidal regime, I don't know what is.
You know, I'm not a politician. I'm just a healthcare worker. That's not why we're here in this world. We're not here to kill each other. I want to ask any Israeli politician. My little patient, first patient, little girl that died, shot in the head. Her name was Hadil, by Israeli forces, by a sniper. Tell me, how is she not innocent? What is her fault? Whether it's Ben Gvir or Smotrich or Netanyahu or any of those men, I don't call them men, baby killers. Tell me, what was Hadil's fault? She's only 2. She's only 2. And if you cannot tell me her fault, then your genocidal policies should be eradicated in this world. There is no place for that hate in this world. No place. What did she do? What did little Ahmed do? He was only 10. I was holding his brain matter. And blood is dripping through my hands. I didn't even have gloves. I didn't have gloves. I can never forget the warm blood from this child's head dripping through my hands as I'm holding his brain inside. How can you forget that? And he is this child that's been murdered is therefore, for whatever reason, according to Israelis, that he is at fault? Come on. Where's your humanity? Come on. Think about this for a while. Just think about it. When I came home, even sometimes washing my hands in lukewarm water is traumatic. Because I remember the blood dripping through my hands, my fingers. The pool of blood on the ground. You know, taking a child for a CT scan in a different hospital while I was in Deir Balah. We were afraid this child had maybe spinal cord injury, so I'm holding his neck together, and he was shot in the face, and I can see just blood dripping through his mouth, and I didn't even have a suction to suction him out, to have him a little bit breathe a little bit. I remember that moment. We were going through Salahuddin Road. It's a red zone. They'll bomb you. But I said to myself, if Israel want to bomb me, they're going to bomb me on Salahuddin while I'm taking this child to the hospital, another hospital, to get a CT scan, because there is no CT scan in Deir Balah. It's only one CT scan in the south, with 1.9 million people displaced there when I was there. One CT scan. At Indonesian hospital, there was only an X-ray machine. Israel went to Indonesian hospital and they burned even X-ray machines. They burned printers. Why would you want to burn a printer? What did that printer do to you? They burned the only dialysis center at Nasser Hospital in the south. So patients are not only dying from being massacred by the bombs we provide, but the chronic illnesses are dying of chronic illness, like dialysis patients with kidney failure, patients with heart disease, congestive heart failure, patients with diabetes are dying. It's a awful designed genocide.
And that's why it's so important to hear your testimony, because I believe we see maybe just a fraction of what's really happening in Gaza. As horrific and horrible as it is, those daily occurrences and experiences that you have had, people don't hear those kinds of stories. And so I want to hear more about Israeli soldiers coming into the hospitals and purposely destroying medical supplies, because I think that's adds on to the testimonies of deliberate war crimes.
Yes. Indonesian hospital was bombed by Israeli forces. And the thing that I want people to remember is this. They burned the pediatric ICU. They burned the whole second floor of the Indonesian hospital. They burned beds. They burned oxygen system. They burned printers. Israel does that. Israel burned X-ray machines. Why? Because so that not only are they bombing children and killing men and women, those who will survive, when you go to the hospital, you have nothing to save you. Tell me, how evil is that? How evil is that? Why? Ask yourself, why?
Well, as somebody who has been covering war for over 18 years now and documenting war crimes around the world by the US military machine, I always remind people that what Israel is doing in Gaza is standard US foreign policy. the United States has committed horrific war crimes in Afghanistan, where they deliberately targeted hospitals, civilian homes, the infrastructure of, the water supplies, the agriculture infrastructures. Obama, the drone king, he droned weddings and civilians on the regular. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Can you imagine? And the United States backed a Saudi-led famine, a blockade that led to a famine in Yemen that has left until now, there are over 23 million people in Yemen who are starving. Over 1 million are children or more. 23 million is a lot, so it's probably more than 1 million children. But when we ask ourselves these questions, I don't have the answer for that. Why is this happening? But for those who have covered war for such a long time, this is what the United States supports. And so I'm one of the people that always say, we can point our fingers at Israel, all day long, but it's like every single one of those bombs has been supplied to Israel by Western countries, from, the United States, Great Britain, Germany, and all those, the miles long of aid trucks that are standing at the Rafah border waiting to get in. The United States could lift that siege at any moment. They won't. They pretend to care. They give us the nice words. But their policy is allowing this to happen. And that's the true face of U.S. imperialism and the military-industrial complex. And so it's sadistic. There's nothing more that can describe what you've seen and witnessed than sadistic. The war machine, the endless war machine, is fueled. The endless war machine is fueled by the blood of people overseas in the name of freedom, democracy, and human rights. This time, though, we're seeing it all broadcasted on social media. And the way in which people are allowed to die is by dehumanizing them first. And so living in a post 9/11 era, I remember even after 9/11, the images of Palestinians celebrating Eid in Gaza, handing out candy after 9/11, which the video itself was actually of them handing out Eid candy. But I think it was CNN or MSNBC. They played this video saying that, look, Palestinians are celebrating 9/11. And they eventually had to retract that video, and they published a very small written apology on their website. But Palestinians and Muslims in general have been dehumanized as terrorists, painted with, that one stroke of a brush as jihadists. And that's how they've been allowed to be justified to be killed. And with these Israeli politicians saying, they're just human animals. And then we have Democrats who pretend to care about human rights, who give us the nice, really nice words. But it was the Joe Biden administration with Kamala Harris that allowed for these crimes to happen under the guise of self-defense. And so one of the main groups of people that I noticed that are continuously dehumanized are Palestinian men. And yet it's Palestinian men wearing their sandals and sometimes even barefoot who are the ones pulling people from under the rubble.
With their bare hands.
With their bare hands, with nothing. They don't have like the civil defense supplies to like get people from under the rubble.
Israel doesn't allow any equipment to go in anyway.
And they're the ones who are bringing people to the hospitals and saving the children under the rubble. And they've had to see, obviously, their own families massacred. We can talk about how the media portrays women as Palestinian and Muslim and Arab women as needing to be saved. But let's give a moment to the Palestinian men, the unsung heroes, who have been just wrongfully dehumanized. And what has your interaction been with them? And how have you seen the Palestinian men in Gaza?
These are the most positive men, I call my brothers, that I've ever met. Even in the middle of a genocide, I get a daily text message that says, "My brother, peace be upon you." If the West has been demonizing them as terrorists, but these are the people every morning will wake up in the middle of a genocide, losing their family members and their children, and they send you a message that says, the first thing they say to you, "Peace be upon you, Habibi, my brother." And I'm thinking, no, peace be upon you, because you are in the middle of a genocide. I want to tell you about my brother, my friend in Gaza. He came one morning to work. The first thing he says, "Salam, peace be upon you." And that afternoon, we just had massive casualties coming, Israeli bombing, with children, men, women shredded in pieces on the floor of the hospital. He gets a phone call that his home was bombed and 8 of his family members, mom, dad, brothers and sisters, killed. This brother goes home and he goes and buries his relatives under fire. Israel is still firing in the area. He goes and buries them. He finds a tent and he sleeps and he comes back. I thought maybe he will take a week off or something. He comes the next morning to work.
And this is a healthcare worker?
Healthcare worker. He's a nurse in Gaza. I told him, "Habibi, why are you here?
Yeah.
Brother, why are you here? Stay. It's okay to grieve." And he looks at me. "Peace be with you, brother. But we have work to do. We have people to save." 2 days later, his uncle gets killed. And he goes and buries them. And he comes back to work. And this is a terrorist? Really? Let's not throw around this word terrorism. Because, in my opinion, Israel is a terrorist state. So it's okay, a state that is dropping multi-million-dollar weapons in the heads of children. They are the democratic nation. They are the democracy. But the children that are being murdered, shredded into pieces, these are terrorists? Come on. Who are they fooling? Who are they fooling? We aren't stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That brother is a terrorist? Buried his 8 members of family, shredded into pieces? He couldn't find his grandma? She's still in rubble? She's still in rubble. And then 2 days later, his uncle is killed.
I mean, this is the story of every single person in Gaza.
Yes.
We hear that it's like one person from their family member dies at one after the other. Some of them are still buried under the rubble. Maybe they were able to pull some bodies under the rubble. This is the story we hear every single day.
I have another story to tell you.
Yeah.
At the Indonesian hospital, when I was at the Indonesian hospital, in front of the hospital, there's this building. It's destroyed. It's all rubble. I saw a gentleman. He was in his 80s. I think 84, 5 or something like that. He's 85. I saw this gentleman every morning. He goes into the destroyed building. He, with one shovel, he's digging in. He's digging out. I said, what is he doing every day? Guess who is digging out? His wife of 60 years. And she was murdered by Israel at the beginning of the war.
And he's still looking for her.
He's still looking for her.
God. That's so sad.
And that's a terrorist? Yeah. That grandpa, I looked at him. I said, it will take you another 100 years to get out by yourself, all of this. And I don't think you have that time. And I hope he will able to get out his wife out of debris and rubble. I hope someday. He said she is the love of my life, and she's here. I have to find her and bury her. He has to bury his wife. These are the Palestinian men. My brother, Khalid Naban, the soul of my soul. The joy of Palestine, the hope of Palestine. He comes, I messaged him before I went to Gaza. Brother, can we meet? He said, Habibi, we will meet. I'll come. Just tell me what hospital. In the north, it might be difficult to come, but I'll come. Thankfully, I was deployed to Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir Balah. And he lived in Nusirat camp. So it's usually about 10 minutes. But now, because there's no roads, Israel destroyed everything. About a couple of hours to get there, 3 hours maybe. But he made it. He came to the ER, to the emergency room. I had brought him a present. As you can tell, I like Ruh, the soul of my soul. I brought him a sweatshirt that says Gaza, the soul of my soul. I bought it from here. And he was very happy. He put it on right in the middle of the emergency room. But before we were going to have coffee, and then before we could have coffee, there was an Israeli airstrike in nearby. And so there was a lot of mass casualties, MCIs coming in. So I got really busy. We were busy with the patient. And so he said, brother, I'll be back tomorrow, Habibi. I'll be back. We'll have coffee, inshallah, God willing. He was beaming with happiness. This brother, if you do not know Khalid Naban, he's the grandfather of Rim, the little
soul
girl,
of my soul.
Soul of my soul.
Yeah. We all know both of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing human being. He is the face of love, justice, peace, and brotherly love and sisterly love for the Palestinian people. He's a face of that. He's an example of that. But not only the Palestinian people, but the entire human race. Because you look at him, you feel peace. You look like this man is a good man.
And the United States spent how many millions upon millions of dollars on an Islamophobia campaign
of a man that looked like him.
A man that looks like Khalid, the grandfather of Reem, the Arab Muslim man wearing the turban and the long dishdasha with the beard, to portray them through this lens that they're barbaric, angry, and aggressive, and abusive, and oppressive, and backwards. And yet we have Khalid grandfather of Reem, showing the world the gentleness,
the love,
that
peace,
the peace that exudes Palestinian
people,
Muslim, Arab men.
And it's a man of faith. He is a man that I know his faith in God is unmatched by any of us. He left that evening, went back to Nusirat camp. The next morning, the Israeli forces killed him.
The next day?
The next day.
Oh my God.
Still wearing the sweatshirt I gave him that says Gaza, the soul of my soul. I got a phone call. The images I saw of him all bloodied, like just horrific images of them killing him, Israelis killing him. But the sweatshirt he was wearing that says Gaza, the soul of my soul, it was still intact. He's buried with it.
Willy, you've watched people that you have come to love and connect with in Gaza. Just like Palestinians have had to endure their family members and friends die one by one, it seems you've also seen people from your healthcare field to just regular people like Khalid Ruh al-Ruh. You see them 1 second, the next day they die.
Yeah.
How does that feel for you?
I'll be okay. But I want to be in this state, in a state of flight and fight. I feel safe there. I don't want to face anything further than that because my soul feels dead. When I remember seeing those children dying alone in the emergency room on the floor, choking to death in their own blood, seeing those brothers and sisters that tomorrow they not come back. But I'll be okay. I'll live with it. I'll live with it because, who am I to complain? What is special about me? While they are still there, getting murdered every single day, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. But they're not okay. We're killing them. We're killing the Palestinian people with our own bombs. I go to work. I feel like, here we go. I'm going to pay taxes. I'm going to kill a few children today in Gaza. How can I live with that? How can I live with that? I'll be okay. My mental health is okay. It's all probably messed up, but it's okay. I'll be fine.
To say that you feel safe in fight or flight because your soul is dead is a really profound statement, because a lot of people who return from war after seeing horrific things like death and bombing and losing friends and family, mass suffering, it means that the war that you think you left behind is still ingrained within your soul, within your every being. And so it's understandable to feel that way. It's understandable, because coming back to the West, it almost feels like life here is like, this is not life. In fact, life is the war back home. And this is like a lie. Yeah. It's like we're living in dual realities, and we really are.
I'm asking people out there, please open your heart. Please open your soul and see the sufferings of the Palestinian people as yours. Please, for the sake of humanity, please. It's not okay. It's not okay. I come home, I'm living in this weird, creepy bubble of safety that makes me cringe. Makes my soul even more dead. But when I think of Gaza, my soul is alive again. When I think of Palestine, my life is at peace again.
And I can imagine it's probably because despite all of the suffering, despite all the media propaganda, and despite all of the death and destruction and starvation campaigns and famine and just all the suffering, you saw a people that had so much life within them. They appreciated the little things, the small things. They were so loving and kind and generous. I can imagine that's the reason why you feel so connected with the people of Gaza.
Yeah.
And the fact that they get up every single day as a form of resistance.
Yes.
And so they represent what it is to be alive as a human.
Yeah.
And Israel and their actions represent everything that humanity should be fighting against.
Yes. Yes. Talk about generosity. I want to talk about the little girl. Her name is Mnar. I got to know her very well at Deir Bala in central Gaza. This little girl, there's a lot of little kids waiting for us at the gate at the where we were sleeping every morning, every evening. When we come out of the emergency room, they're always sitting there waiting and singing and doing dabka and all that stuff. It's amazing. It's little Mnar. I walk out of the emergency room. I'm all bloodied. My scraps are bloodied. My just it was total massacre that day. Total massacre. I mean, blood everywhere. Just you were walking in blood. I was going up there. Didn't wash my hands because Israel doesn't allow you to take just allows you to only take one hand soap to Gaza. No more than that.
So you went to Gaza with one bar of soap.
Yep. Can allow more than that. One bottle of Tylenol. They will not allow you more than that. She gives me a piece of bread she was eating. She's waiting outside the emergency room. She's like, here, bilafia. Like, for your health. Eat. I'm looking at her like, Habibti. In my head, I didn't tell her that, but in my head, I'm thinking, you need to eat. I have some tuna that was left over by Israelis before they destroyed all my tuna. But I'm thinking, you need it. She's like, I said, no, Habibi, thank you. Shukran. La. It's no. I say no. She's like, no, she's not letting it go. She gave it to me. And I said, okay, I'll eat it. With my dirty hands, bloody hands. Gotta eat it. I ate it. You cannot say no to a generosity of the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
That's what your people do. My friend Dr. Mohammed Tahir that I talked about earlier.
And just to clarify, this is not the same Iraqi doctor.
No, this is a different doctor.
This is a local Palestinian doctor with the same name, Dr. Mohammed Tahir.
Yes.
Okay.
He's up in he's in Jabalia. He's after many months, that was my first trip, I think 8 months of the genocide. The UN, they were able to bring some eggs. Each healthcare worker got 12 eggs. Dr. Muhammad takes the eggs home. And the next morning, guess what he brings? My favorite Palestinian dish, breakfast dish, shakshuka.
That's my favorite too.
Yeah, I love it. And he says, brother, you gotta eat. I got something my wife made it. My wife said you have to eat. I'm like, brother, no. Your children have not had protein in 8-9 months. I cannot eat in my clear conscience. There is no way. It's like, no, you have to eat. You are our guest. This is what they always says. No, you are our guest.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have anything, but you are our guest.
Yeah.
These are the people the world is watching being murdered. The most loving people, the most generous people, the kindest people you'll see. The people who teach the world what it means to be human. The people of this world, and yet the people above this world. And that's why I reverted to Islam.
I was just about to ask you that. If you have a really, we don't normally talk about religion here, but you were a Christian.
Yeah.
Going to become a priest.
Yes.
And you now have converted to Islam because of your experience in Gaza. Can you tell us about that?
In Gaza, when you are there, faith is not some kind of ritualistic routine of day-to-day activity that people do. It's a lived experience. It's in their every fiber of the Palestinian people. every fiber of their body, their heart, and their soul. It's not some kind of abstract idea of something you have to do or you have to wake up and pray 5 times a day. No. It is a lived experience. It's in practice. It's something they don't do out of an obligation, but out of pure spirit, pure love, pure faith for God. And you see it.
And you saw that there as you were a Christian.
As I'm a Christian. And I said to myself, there is something about life that the Palestinian people know. I don't know, but I want to know. And the world needs to know. And the world is hungry, but the world does not know how to get it. And there's something about God that the Palestinian people know. I don't know, but I'm longing for it. I'm yearning for it. I want it, but I don't know how to get it. I know in the books, I've read about it in philosophy and theology, but they know it. They know this God. They know him. They have a personal relationship. He's not some distant deity. He's not some distant person that they just worship. He is in their midst. He is in their lives. He guides them every day. He protects them every day. And the world is also yearning and longing for that God that the Palestinian people know.
Yeah. The God who is closer to you than your jugular vein.
Yes.
The divine lives within you.
And so I thought there's something about the Palestinian people that I want to know more. And I want to know their faith. What is this that drives them every day, every morning, drive their lives every day of their lives? I want to know that. And it wasn't a brainer. The second I knew, I wasn't in Gaza looking for some kind of transformational faith, transformation of my faith, of my spirit, of my heart. I wasn't looking for that. But it happens without you even looking for it. Because it's how they live. How they live. I tell people, my Muslim brothers and sisters in the US, you can pray 5 times a day, all you want. But if you don't have faith, like that of the Palestinian people in Gaza or around the whole Palestine and the West Bank, you need to re-examine your faith. Because these are the people who are being murdered, who are being persecuted, who are being shredded into pieces, who are being limited to even move on a daily basis. But they have one thing. They have their God. They have their faith. And the sooner, the better for Israel to realize that no matter how many big 2,000-pound bombs they use and kill these wonderful people, you cannot kill them. You cannot kill their spirit, their soul of their souls, their soul for love, for justice, for peace. Israel will not diminish that. Israel will not extinguish that love of the Palestinian people for love itself, for faith, and for God. They won't. The sooner they realize that, the better they will see to let the people free. Let the Palestinians free. Let them determine their own lives. Because these are people of God. These are the truly chosen people. We're talking about chosen people. The Palestinian people are the chosen people.
And that's so beautiful to hear your experience because, despite all of the death, they'd come to you and say, and despite how little they had, they would say to you, Alhamdulillah, which means all praises to God.
Yes.
Because they know that this is not the end.
Yeah.
There's more to life than this very short life.
Yes.
Willie, we don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to end by talking about the famine. You mentioned that despite how little food Palestinians had and had access to, they would share that food with you and insist that you would eat that food because they were so generous and kind. And because, they kept saying, you are our guest.
Yes.
When I was in Palestine a couple of years ago, I had the same experience. My family and my friends didn't allow me to spend a single penny or shekel while I was there. Even when I had to go to the hospital for getting like a stomach virus, they paid for my hospital bill. They would not allow me to do anything on my own. They had to cover all my expenses and just give me and give me and give me and give me. They were just overflowing with generosity. It was just such a beautiful thing to see because, you don't see that kind of generosity here in the West. But Israel likes to put Palestinians on a diet. We know that Israel has put Gazans on a strict diet. Right now,
720 calories a day since 1987.
So as Israel puts Palestinians on a very strict diet, even before the genocide, of 700 calories per day, which is insane, not enough nutrients to survive long term. That obviously causes nutritional deficiencies and imbalance in the body and severe hunger. Right now, we're seeing these aid trucks. I think it's over 3,000 aid trucks, miles long at the Rafah border being blocked. And, we'll have a couple instances where Israel will allow like a couple of aid trucks to come in and they really limit the amount of food that's allowed. And then we have the United States airdropping supplies in such a humiliating way. Maybe they even allow bags of flour to go in, even after Israel goes and bombs the bakeries where people go and access bread. What was eating like for you as a healthcare worker, somebody who came in through an organization, and how was it for other people in Gaza? Could you talk more about that?
It's usually, if it's available, it's one meal a day.
For you or for everybody?
For everybody.
Okay.
If it's available. For me, it was available most of the days because I had my own tuna cans and I brought some crackers and some peanuts that I would eat. But Israel only allows you to take up to 3 kilograms for a healthcare worker for the entire month you were there. They don't allow you to take more than that.
3 kilograms worth of food.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so usually it's a piece of bread and maybe canned beans, and that's your meal for the day. Sometimes you may get some rice, but barely anything available. World Central Kitchen sometimes will provide rice. That's it. But that's very rare because it's not available either. So the hunger there is horrific. I have seen children. The last time I saw kwashiorkor is when I was little in Africa.
And that's with the protruding
Big belly,
Yeah.
very thin skin, puffy face, brittle hair falling, skin diseases, rashes and scabies. All of these are signs and symptoms of malnutrition. You see it every day in Gaza.
Wow.
Children look like you look at the skin is so thin, so brittle, so dry, and scabies from environmental no water, no nothing to clean them and help them. And I've seen also a lot of some children come to the hospital because of poor nutrition. When they go to the bathroom, they're bleeding. They're bleeding because
from their colon.
From their colon, yes, because there's no nutrition. And these Palestinian children are used to eating good food that our moms and dads make fresh, but now they're eating canned meat that's not available or canned beans that's not even available. So they come with a lot of gastrointestinal diseases. a lot of bleeding. I saw a child with a hemoglobin of, I think, 4. Very, needed blood transfusion.
That's very low iron.
Yes, very low iron. And so it's extremely difficult to see that. And when I was in Gaza this last time, in 1 week, we had 5 children die of malnutrition. In today's world, if you're American or you're in Europe somewhere, think about a child dying of hunger when we have so much waste in this country, all over. Think about it. I went to a high school a couple of weeks ago. It was during lunch. I look at the trash where they're throwing their trash. It was full of pizza, half eaten or nothing at all. But there's a child in Gaza that's dying by design, on purpose, dying of hunger. And the food is just a few miles across the border, waiting. When you're going into Gaza from both the King Hussein Bridge on the Jordanian side, there's trucks lined up on both sides of the road, miles, just sitting there. When you get to Karim Abu Salim, the same. There's a big storage they built outside where the trucks are waiting.
And they're blocking water bottles, aren't they?
Water bottles.
Because the water is contaminated.
Water is contaminated. We bring some filters, water filters. If you can donate water filters next time I go, please donate water filters because we need them. They're blocking everything. And so, no water, no medicine, no food, and being killed. That's Israel for you. That's the so-called democracy in the Middle East. Come on. Who are we lying to? American people, wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Because this is not right. This is just wrong. Why will a child die in today's world with hunger? No reason. Children are dying because after they come to the hospital, we amputate them. Children get amputated without anesthesia, right? And then you send them home to the tents, to the same environment where Israel has destroyed everything. And they come back with an infection. I have cleaned maggots from a double amputee child, little 8-year-old girl. It was double amputation above the knee. So while we were cleaning, she came in there with fever, with throwing up, with she was just looking sick. And of course, she got an infection. And then as we're cleaning her wounds, going through her thighs, and I could feel this, like the texture of the skin was not the same. It was mushy. I could see something mushy. I think her flesh inside is all eaten by something, guys. We gotta clean this up. So we open it a little bit. Maggot, which is falling out.
Oh my gosh.
Maggots. And you have to clean this wound, get all the maggots out, clean it good again, and put her on some kind of antibiotics. And some of the antibiotics don't work in Gaza because they are now resistant, because they've been used over and over and over again all year long for 19 months. Maggots falling off a wound of an 8-year-old girl. 8.
And I'm sure that was a common scene, considering Gaza right now has the largest number of amputees in the whole world.
Yeah.
And who knows how many kids were stuck under the rubble.
For hours, for days sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you come out of the rubble, their limbs are probably never because they didn't get a blood supply. You cannot. There's nothing more to do. Usually, the surgeons will just amputate, right? There's nothing more to do because it's gone. It's more risky to put that leg back together, those limbs back together, because of infection risk and all that. For surgeons, usually, I'm not a surgeon, but this is what they say. They always say that it's a lot riskier and impossible. Some of those legs are not able to put back together because they're shredded, right? So amputation. And then another patient, I remember, he was 14 years old. He came, stabilized him, went to the ICU. I don't know how many hours, how many days, I think a day, maybe he was in the rubble, but he got amputated.
He was under the rubble?
Yes. And then I went to see him about 3 days later to the ICU. I was like, how is he surviving? Because we worked on him for a long time. I went in there. I could smell something. I could smell the stench of rotting flesh. And I asked the nurse, I said, I think his wounds are infected. Because if you walk away from him, the stench of rotting flesh is gone. But the closer you get, stand here, you can smell it. I said, she's like, oh yes, but we don't have antibiotics. And I thought, maybe we should undress his wounds, leave them open to air at least, instead of wrapping them and all that moisture stays in. But she says, once you open it, you open his wound, no one will sit in this hospital.
From the stench. And did he survive?
No.
He did not survive.
No. I mean, you can tell. It was just a matter of time. He was not going to make it.
Willy, I want to thank you for your courage, for speaking up, for being there in the heart of this modern day Holocaust, and just being there to support and love and treat all of these children, these women, and have an impact on them, to give people the hope, to know that there's somebody like you and other healthcare workers that care, that want to help the people of Gaza. I know it was not easy, but I know that you will forever be a different man because of this experience. And so we have to wrap up our conversation here today, but I commend you for all that you have been through, for risking literally your life to be there to treat the people of Gaza, and to be here now in the United States to share their stories and your experience. What you've shared with me today is a testimony, a very important testimony of the human rights abuses and war crimes that Israel has committed. And I hope that this interview can be used as a testament to what Israel is doing in Gaza. Did you have any final words or anything you want to leave us with?
I'm just a healthcare worker. I just do what I'm trained to do. I just do what is important, what is necessary to be in Gaza. And the second you go to Gaza, you will know why you go to Gaza. You will love it. You love the people there. They're the most beautiful people the world has ever seen. And so I just do what is necessary. And I don't deserve any of the nice words, but thank you. I just thank you for having me. My final request to all Americans, anywhere in the world, any human being, don't forget Palestine. Please, I'm begging you. The blood poured by Israel, the blood shed by Israel of the Palestinian men, women, and children should not go to waste. It's on us. Do something. I'm begging you. Do not despair. Do not despair. Because the people of Gaza, they don't want us to despair. The Palestinian people don't want us to give up. They want us to keep fighting.
Yeah.
Together. Together we will defeat Zionism. Together we will make Palestine free. Together we will end this modern day Holocaust.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you.
As a Palestinian who has also lived under Israeli occupation and apartheid, I want to commend you and thank you for the work that you're doing as a healthcare worker. And, despite how horrific this reality is for people in Gaza, I do see that the tides are shifting. And, we're finding just the average American now, even the average European, average whatever it is around the world who may have not known, they know now. Mm-hmm. You can't turn a blind eye, and you can't unsee what we've seen now, what's happening in Gaza. So I think people are waking up and they're seeing the truth. They're breaking through that propaganda bubble that has been blown up for us by the mainstream corporate media. And it's because of testimonies like yours and it's testimonies like mine when we come out back into the West and we change people's perspectives.
I can even imagine you as a 13, 12, 10-year-old girl growing up, living in apartheid state. But as you said, there's hope. There's hope coming. And I want to ask people are going to ask, now what? Why do we do what we do? Please give your time and resources and whatever you have, your voice to the Palestinian people. Donate. People are going to ask, what do we need to do? Donate to charitable organizations that are helping Palestinian children. There's a lot of them. I can send you the names and lists so that are reputable organizations that you can work with. One of them is Heal Palestine, Med Global, Glia. It's an Italian, but they're also here in the US. And yes, help those organizations. Speak up. If protesting is not your strength, write to your politicians. Call the president over and over again. Volunteer locally with the Palestinian causes. Do something. We're counting on you.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to help by any means. And if you're a healthcare worker, if you're a journalist, when Israel allow you to go, especially for journalists, when they're allowing a trickle of healthcare workers to go, but no journalists. When you're able to go, please go and see for yourself. There is no Gaza anymore. There is no Gaza. Gone.
At the rate of what's happening, I think we have to also acknowledge, and we have to wrap it up, but
yes,
we have to acknowledge that protesting and posting on social media is like the absolute bare minimum of what we should be doing.
Correct.
We should be absolutely disrupting the money-making mechanisms this capitalist system has put in place to allow for this horrific war and all wars to take place. We should be supporting groups that take direct action, like Palestine Action in the UK and across Europe, who are at the weapons manufacturers and the Israeli weapons manufacturers destroying the buildings. And we should be at the front doors of every single one of our politicians' office, disrupting them and demanding that they end what they're doing. I mean, this is the least that we can do, and we need to boycott and we need to organize our communities.
Your own Amy Klobuchar.
Even Amy Klobuchar here in Minneapolis. But Willy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I hope that we can continue this conversation again. and, just keep speaking up. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Appreciate you. Thank you.